Welcome to another edition of From the Front Lines, where we discuss both the day-to-day and one-of-a-kind issues facing real estate managers. So our topic today is the shift in older adult and senior housing trends, particularly around Proptech. I'm here with Keith Stewart, Chief Growth Officer of K4Connect. Welcome, Keith.
Hello there.
Keith, K4Connect's technologies focus on the older adult market. Tell me more about K4Connect and how your technology fits into the core Proptech technologies that we've seen over the last few years, like virtual showings, digital staging, and so forth.
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I think it's important to know that I work for K4Connect, which is a mission-driven health tech company. And our focus is really on integrating the best in technologies to serve and empower those older adults. And I think that's really important when you're thinking about this older adult population. For one, it's really evolving, and it's evolving much faster than I think anyone would have thought, even just a few years ago. For one, they are much more embracing technology. Many have their own smartphones and have for a while, have had email addresses. They also happen to be one of the wealthiest populations. So not only are they tech savvy, but they've got high expectations. They have money, and they're looking to use this technology to essentially drive better experiences. And a big part of that is how they engage with technology at home and the expectations for what technology they use in the home, whether it be for amenity experiences around controlling their environment, all the way through to wellness and different applications around tracking their heart rate when they're working out, or just overall better experiences.
So in addition to improving the quality of life for these residents, these older adults, how can this technology also bring efficiencies to our multifamily senior housing managers and their staff?
Sure. Well, I'm sure you, like many of us, are much more aware of things around your person based on the use of technology. Many people are using wearables these days, things like Apple Watches, and tracking their heart rate and their activity levels. And the same is the case for older adults. The difference being, though, is care providers, loved ones would like to see that their parents, loved ones are staying socially engaged. They're have an active social life. They're staying energetic, and it's really the use of this data to try to drive better outcomes. And that's really the next frontier, is the application of this data, and really understanding things like how many steps are they taking? Are they waking up about the same time today as they were 3 months ago? And are they still engaging socially and being entertained? And what we've learned in the last 2 years is the profound impact that social isolation has on mental well-being. And through the use of this data, we're able to have a much better idea of how these loved ones are staying connected, so to speak.
And speaking of that data and insights, what are you seeing in terms of this next generation of older adults and their expectations and needs in their residence?
Well, I think first and foremost, what we're seeing is older adults want to stay at home longer. And I think the industry needs that to be the case as well. So over 90% of older adults, or those above 65, are saying that they want to age at home. And really, if you look at that industry, if you look at congregate living, independent assisted living, that needs to be the case for a couple levels. One, just availability of housing. And there are a lot of people building as quickly as possible for the amount of older adults, or that population moving in. But equally, there's also the other element of just staff availability. It's affecting every single industry, but it's most profoundly impacting the industry around staffing. Number two, if you start thinking about social isolation as a global issue, community, the concept of community and personal connection is so important. And then ultimately, when you think about things like your smart devices and driving overall experiences, things like smart home and home automation and smart speakers have just become so much of the norm. It's part of everyone's daily life. And it's about leveraging these technologies and providing that experience for them to be able to stay at home longer, to rely on kind of technology as opposed to, an actual human caregiver for many of these typical daily things.
And so, how is this influencing the senior housing market and trends you're seeing there? And how does your technology address some of these issues?
Well, that's a great question. I mean, first and foremost, if you think about the landscape that is senior living, you think about the active adult, the retirement and lifestyle elements of that. The housing industry is really trying to cater for much more specific age demographics. Active adult being, in essence, above 65, independent living, where there's really no regulation associated with it, then moving into assisted living. And then, of course, you've got memory care and skilled nursing that go around there. But that's really based on need. And, that's what you would call, the overall continuum of care. Historically, this was very dominated by non-for-profit organizations. Usually there would be an affiliation with it. But the for-profit operator has really started to enter into this space, and it's fundamentally overtaken it. It's about 85% of the housing options now, really come from a for-profit side of the house. What that means is there's more industry consolidation. It's certainly professionalizing. There's new instruments, from a lender or investment rising from this. Private equity and REITs have been getting involved. And, fundamentally, they're recognizing that this is a very quickly growing demographic. The buying power of this demographic is, which is being referred to as the next generation resident, is combined with this change in expectation. If you think about it yourself, if you're driving down the highway and you pull over and go to a hotel, you just assume that there's going to be Wi-Fi or good broadband and likely expect it to be free. And the senior housing market, in many cases, still don't have enterprise Wi-Fi in these communities, and so they're having to modernize, very quickly. And so that's a major shift. The laggards are getting left behind, and innovation is now arriving in senior housing. And the cliche of the older adult not liking technology is very much a passé cliche, because they do like technology. They just like technology that was designed for them as an 80-year-old, not for designed for a 30-year-old. And so all of these, if you will, supportive tailwinds are driving this transformation. And fundamentally, the last 2 years have really exposed those that were ready for it, and really bolstered those that had already prepared, had already started that transformation journey. And in essence, the genie's out of the bottle, and it won't be going back in. Technology and transformation in the space is definitely here to stay.
Sounds like a lot of opportunity there. So I'm curious about K4Connect specifically. What would be an example of how your technology is addressing a specific need among active adults, seniors, and that population?
Yeah, well, I mean, I mentioned before, as a health tech company and really focusing on integration first, we're really betting on the fact that technology is going to keep evolving. And so, our first focus is to come in and do a technology assessment, see where communities are today, understand what their pain points are or opportunity areas to drive meaningful transformation, and really start a roadmap on how we can move those communities, those operations, forward, whether it's driving more staff efficient workflows or drive energy savings through the use of proactive management of the IoT devices, all the way through to risk reduction with trying to avoid catastrophic leaks, or water outages or things like that. But ultimately, it's about taking technology and providing amenity experiences to the residents, which will drive adoption, to then provide data and insights about those residents for staff to drive new workflows. allowing the staff and the residents to better engage, the residents to stay better connected to either other residents or friends and family or broadly around the community. And just in essence, drive with the use of technology better outcomes for residents and caregivers.
I've heard over the years, so many of our managers do what they do because they can improve the quality of life where people live and work and play, so to speak. And it sounds like this Proptech is doing just that, specifically for active adults and our more vulnerable seniors at later stages in life. So this is really exciting to hear about. Thank you so much for your time, Keith.
Absolutely. I appreciate you spending the time to chat with me, and you couldn't be more right. This is really a profound use of technology to really help a demographic that needs that technology, as you said.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Certainly. Well, thank you.
Visit irem.org for more knowledge to take on real estate management's most dynamic challenges. That's www.irem.org.